other day. There was a great spiritual writer who was asked, so what's the whole point of what we're supposed to be doing here on earth? And he very simply said, we're all just walking each other home, which I like. You know, you can recall when you were a kid, maybe you were lost, maybe you were frightened, and maybe you were frustrated or something, and somebody walked you home. There's that story of the girl who got lost and the cops found her, but she couldn't tell them where she lived, you know, and then she sees the church, and she goes, leave me here, I can always get home from here. And that's the same, I think, of Homeway Industries. You can always find your way home from here. This weekend, part of the many things I've had to do, one of them was gratefully and joyfully presided at my nephew's wedding in Milwaukee. And he was reminding me that my father, his grandfather, when my siblings would ask or inform my father that, you know, I want to marry this woman or I want to marry this guy, they would say, my dad would always ask this one question, will she help you get into heaven? And he asked this of everybody. Now he was of a certain generation, and so, but he still didn't think that that question was really about the pearly gates or what do we do after this life. He knew that all the way to heaven is heaven, if you have the eyes to see. And so one of my favorite passages in Scripture is when Jesus is hanging on the cross between those two ladrones, and one of them was kind of scandalous and talking masa to him. But the other one says, hey, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus looks at him and says, my favorite mantra throughout the whole gospel, this day with me, paradise. All the way to heaven is heaven if you have the eyes to see. I've preached on that gospel many times in juvenile hall and camps and jail. And I remember a homie who had been released from camp and was working for us 2 days and was finding the experience a good one. He stuck his head in my office and he said, this day, with everybody here, paradise. So he remembered, I think. And that's kind of the point. So you're supposed to remember, retrieve times, if you can, when folks walked you home, when you were frightened or nervous or frustrated or confused. Everybody has those times in your life that it's easy to retrieve them. For me, a big one was when I was diagnosed with leukemia and was going through chemotherapy. I always say I would not have traded that moment for anything, even given all the discomfort of it. People walked me home. I remember a homegirl left me a voicemail message at home, and she said, now it's our turn to take care of you. Very sweet. Big old homie, 6'3", standing in front of my desk, trembling, with tears in his eyes, and he says, what do I have that you need? You know, meaning organs. I didn't need any, but I think we can agree it was the thought that counted. And once when I came home from chemotherapy, I was sitting in my office and I was just kicking it there. And a homie, 15 years old, had just got this news, you know, and he was sitting in front of me and he looked completely grief-stricken. And he said, I hear you have leukemia. I said, yeah, I do. And there was this long, awkward silence. And then he said, my cat had leukemia. She died. I said, oh gosh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm awfully glad you stopped by. Just picked me right up there. So here's the challenge for us today. 2 things. One is to retrieve those moments in your life that you can recall that folks walked you home. Because you'll discover that all the way home is home. So find ways to help folks find their way home today, this day, with each other.